Did you ever get sick? I mean, you're a doctor in a family practice around people that are sick.
There was only a few times where I had to cancel patients because of illness.
How long has it been that you're actually retired? Was this recent? How recent was this?
No, it's been 8 years now. So.
How many?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah, so
Today's guest spent 45 years caring for families, mentoring peers, and leading with quiet consistency inside one of the most respected medical systems in St. Louis. He served as chairman of the Department of Family Practice in DePaul Medical Center, president of the medical staff.
That's correct.
And helped shape the lives of countless patients across multiple generations. I first met him as a high school kid in the health occupations program at Hazelwood Central. Still trying to figure out what kind of man I wanted to become. I'm still trying to figure it out. Later in life, he became my own doctor. And what stood out was not just his knowledge, it was his calm, his presence, the kind of steadiness that does not chase attention, but earns. This kind of leadership is rare, and it lasts. He just recently retired after the 45 years of showing up that way. And today we get to hear the story behind that kind of a career servicing the community. Please welcome Dr. Daniel Lischwe.
Thank you.
By my memory, that was always just part of who you were. You're just kind of quiet guy. You show up, you putting in the, chairman of the Department of Family Practice. I guess they don't take that lightly when they assign those positions.
No, well, you had to apply for it. And then of course you had to, be going through search committees, and it was a good position because I got to help shape the full department, the other members of the department, and it was a good job in addition to my practice for 25, 30 years.
Oh, so you held that position for
about 20 years.
20 years. And you were able to hold that and your family practice.
Correct. The chairmanship of the department basically was for the hospital itself. So you kind of made sure everything was going well with the department in the hospital. If the physicians were doing what they should while the patients were hospitalized. And if there were problems, of course, you had to talk with them and go over it and say, hey, this patient should have had this done or that done or whatever, and it wasn't performed. So we got to, pick up our medicine here.
So I don't know do you remember when we met?
I remember you came as a patient, and it was a long time ago. I don't quite remember that you were in the Hazelwood
health occupations. So you weren't actually part of that program as far as I know. You may have been, but I don't know. I was standing in line. I had like a little student badge on. We were at the cafeteria, and you just introduced yourself to me and gave me your card. It's like, hey, I'm a doctor here. I got a little, I don't know. That would have been 1985. So in 1985, were you just out of medical school, or how new were you to the medical field? And so you said 45 years, right. 25, 15, that's 40. So you're 5 years in.
Right. So med school, I finished in 1977 and then did a residency. I was at St. John's Hospital, which is now Mercy Hospital in St. Louis. There for 3 years. And then myself and my other fellow resident, Dale Henselmeyer, went together and started a practice at DePaul in 1980. So we had started in 80. And at that point, we did pretty much everything. I still did deliveries. So I was still doing deliveries, delivering babies. And I did that till about 1987. So when I met you, I was still doing deliveries, as well as taking care of the family, the baby, the parents, etc. And so 5 years in, we were still building a practice. We did a lot of ER referrals. So patients that came into the ER did not have a doctor. The ER would give them our name, so we'd see them. And so that's how we kind of built the practice. It took a little while because we just went out on our own. And of course, when you go out on your own, you have to put everything together, borrow a lot of money to put your office together and get going. And then you hope you find patients to come to see you. Right.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. So you were my doctor probably not much longer after that. I don't know. For whatever reason, we developed a relationship, right. And I started seeing you probably as soon as I was like 18 and kind of taking care of my own medical needs at that time. And I don't know if you remember, I have a seizure disorder.
I was thinking back, and I wished I could have went back looked at the records, but as I said, they're not available to me anymore. So I kind of remembered that there was something with the seizure disorder.
Right. Yeah. And so, interesting enough, I went to SLU, saw a specialist there, and they couldn't find anything but what they called a slowing, which I guess they can't actually diagnose that as seizure activity. So I went from seizure activity to a slow. At least that's all they were able to discover. I mean, the doctor wasn't convinced that there was nothing else going on. And I guess I'm young and dumb, but I heard that and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm off the Tegretol, off the Dilantin, off of all of this. And he's like, I'm not recommending that. I go, that's okay. And honestly, I really haven't had any issues since. So it's just a oddity, chemical imbalance situation. And most recently, talking about imbalances, I'm seeing a traditional Chinese medicine doctor that's also an herbalist and an MD. Wow. So she's licensed here in the U.S. as an MD. So, I mean, I'm sure that is pretty rigorous, right? You don't just come in from offshore and get your MD. You probably almost have to go. Do you just sit for the boards, or do you actually even have to get a degree again?
It's different depending on what university you went to. And if the university she went to in China was recognized by the American,
Medical Association.
I guess American Medical Association or the Hospital Association, she might be able to sit for boards.
But she still has to sit for the boards no matter what.
Right. And she might not. If they said, well, this is not a recognized
then you got to go through a program.
Correct.
Now, I don't think it's as long as a traditional medical degree program.
Right.
A friend of mine had to do this as an attorney. So she was an attorney. I forgot which country, but one of the Central American countries. And then she had to go through still like a 2-year program. And she still had to sit for the boards and all of that. Wow. So anyway, so she's a medical doctor, traditional Chinese doctor, and an herbalist. She's probably most proud about the herbalist than anything, it seems to me. And so she had me do this. I just thought you might find this interesting since you used to be my doctor. She had me, I went to an Indian restaurant and it just tore my gut up. And I've eaten Indian food. It wasn't my first time at an Indian restaurant, but it just tore me up. And I was having major gut problems. So she had us do a stool test. She wanted to make sure I didn't have any parasites and going through the process, right? Trying to get it resolved. So she put me on a special diet. Like this is some protein shakes and we'll kind of clean up your diet and what you're intaking. And like a month later, she's like, you're not doing better. And I'm like, no, doc, I'm not doing any better. Oh, wow. Let's do a food sensitivities test. So we do a food sensitivities test, find out that the diet she put me on, I was sensitive to almost everything inside of it, like turmeric, all this stuff, monk fruit. I mean, there's a whole litany of things. So we cleaned that up and I'm doing a lot better. And I told her I'm still like not feeling better. She's like, probably we ought to do just since we're doing all this, let's do a neurotransmitter test. So we do a neurotransmitter test and find out there's, all these levels that aren't ideal. Puts me on a supplement, and doc, I feel the best I've felt in my life.
Wow, it's amazing.
I mean, my gut feels great. I am on a protein supplement, diet plan right now, avoiding everything that's on. It was called an ALCAT test. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've heard of it, but I'm not really.
So it tests your food sensitivities, and honestly, there's a lot of foods that I'm sensitive to, and a lot of foods I like, but there's a lot of foods I like that I'm not sensitive to. So it was not like one of the ones was apples and watermelons of all things. I love apples and watermelons. They're like, yeah, if you don't want to have gut issues, you just want to avoid those.
Right.
And you can get those nutrients from, I think cantaloupe is on the list of things that I can eat, and celery and tomatoes and pears. I mean, lots of things I can eat. So it's not been limiting at all.
Good.
It's just been eye-opening to like, no, that's no good for me for whatever reason.
Yeah. For some reason it interacts with
and she even said that, it's an expensive test and insurance doesn't pay for it. Yeah, it was like $500. And they have a higher level one that does even more foods. And I'm probably going to go back and do it in 6. She says, you don't have to. And I'm like, but I want to. Because she did say, your body can change. Like right now it says no watermelon. You're sensitive to it. In 6 months, maybe that sensitivity isn't as strong because you completely eliminated, let your gut heal. And one of the things, I'm just curious from your background, one of the things I read was that the gut is like your second brain, or maybe it's your first brain. I don't know.
Well, it does. It takes all the food in and knows what to process, what to send out and get rid of, because it affects the body. So there is a lot of intelligence in the cells and in the workings of the intestinal tract. So you're right. It's definitely one of the important parts of our body that processes everything we put in, pretty much, except for what you breathe. So all the food has to be processed and get through this. So when you mean the gut, of course, you mean the liver, you mean the pancreas, all these that go along with that.
And then they produce all these hormones, I guess.
Correct. Right, and neurotransmitters, as you said, the transmitters that you had measured. So on her, is she from China, you said?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, and she's now in Florida.
In Boca Raton, Dr. Hao. H-A-O, Hao. I'm probably saying it wrong.
No, it's probably.
But yeah, I mean, I just love her to death. She's just, I mean, yeah. When you're like feeling horrible and then someone
she brings you back,
you're just very thankful for that and to feel so much better.
It could have been even 40 years ago when you had the questionable seizures. Maybe it was something with your neurotransmitters, something you ate. Who knows? It could have all been related years and years ago.
Right. And the crazy thing is I guess I was about 25, 26. I was married, working, and I met this woman I was working with about my same age. She just, at that age, boom, started having seizures at like mid-20s. I mean, it's crazy. It happened to me when I was younger, and then I like grew out of it, and then she got it later in life. I mean, I guess you've probably come across some crazy things like this.
Seizures so they're hard to know. And sometimes it's from a past head injury that you didn't even realize, fall off a bike, hit your head, and have a little area that was damaged internally, got some scar tissue, and don't realize it. Sometimes it's from something you ate, some medicine, something that you took in your body that caused it. And years ago, we're talking about 45, 50 years ago, when people had a seizure, they always thought you had to be on medicine and be on it forever. But over time, that's kind of changed. It's like, well, if it's just one seizure, one time, let's give it more, and let's not go on medicines forever, because unless you can really define something, as you said, on EEG, which shows definite problems. Sounds like you did well getting off and haven't really had seizures since then, so that was the right thing for you.
Yeah. I suffered from migraines too as a child. Severe, like so severe. I would go to DePaul, and it was so frustrating. And as a kid, I didn't understand it. As an adult, I understand it now. They couldn't do nothing until they took a drug test. They wanted to do a drug test, because I guess.
Are you seeking drugs because you just want pain pills?
Or did you take something and then you're having a reaction to? Even though I was a young kid, I guess they see everything there. And, they couldn't give me any codeine until they, and I'm sitting there in agony waiting for that code, because that's what they give me is codeine to help it. Yeah. My parents were like, what do I do? What do I do? Here's my kid. He's screaming in pain. And it happened often.
Right. Yeah. Again,
did you, as a family doctor, did you ever see that in children?
I had a lot of patients with migraines, not so much children, but as teenagers and into the 20s. And it started getting better when we came out with better medications. And now we have medications that really aren't pain pills, or medications to relax the blood vessels, which tighten up and cause the migraine. And
is that what it? Okay, so so no more codeine.
Right. And sometimes you have to use a pain medication if it's.
That was the Imprim 3. That's what I remember the name of it even. Right. I was like, I need that Imprim 3. And I mean, I wasn't a kid that was after the pain med. I mean, I don't think there's any nice feeling of the pain med. So it just knocks you flat,
Correct.
And but yeah, it was definitely not something that I'd want to go through again. So I'm just curious, since I got here, what first drew you into medicine? Like, was there a moment in time where you're like,
it's one of those things that it wasn't my dream or ideal as a grade schooler or high schooler to go to medical school. It was during the 60s, and that was when we had all the engineering, and we had the space war, and we got to the moon. And my actual thought back then was, oh, I'd like to be an engineer, and I like to work and do stuff in, with science. But then we got to the moon in '69. I graduated from high school in '69, and then got into college. And really, engineering was on kind of a downfall for a little bit because we made it to the moon. We didn't need all the engineers. Boeing or McDonnell Douglas, which was called back then in St. Louis, kind of laid off engineers. I thought, I think I'll just do something else in science. And I looked into medicine and just kind of fell into it. So medicine wasn't necessarily always what I had dreamed of or thought of doing, but it was a good blend of the science, a good blend of dealing with people and patients. And so it was kind of something I just kind of went into because of what it did and what I could do with it. And not so much something that I've talked to kids and I've talked to patients who want to be a doctor, and they've been wanting to do this since they were a kid. I mean, they had to be a doctor kid and they went around doing things, but I didn't really have that.
So what would you tell someone that was maybe considering a career in medicine?
Well, I think that medicine is still probably one of the nicest careers and opportunities you have. It's changed a lot in that I think people are realizing now that you have to have other aspects of your life. Back in, like, again, 50, 60 years ago, medicine kind of was the whole thing where you worked pretty much, you got in the office early, saw patients before the office. When the office was done, if you admitted somebody, you had to go over and see them. And you didn't get home till 7 or 8 o'clock. You usually left in the morning at home at 6:30 in the morning. You were there all day. And then, of course, you were on call at night. And that was before iPhones, cell phones, and all these things. So you had pagers and beepers, but you had to be available for the patients if they needed you. So now I think things have changed a lot. And there's much more of the idea that your life is not just medicine. And the people going into it don't want to have everything just dictated by their job and by medicine. So I think it has changed for the good in that way, in that there is more freedom. You have time to do other things. On the other hand, it's a lot more advanced and there's a lot more to know. And I think, of course, science has developed too. We have AI and all these things that we talk about. And AI is fairly big in medicine because you can put stuff into the computer and ask it and get an idea. And some of the stuff you may not have in your mind. You might have heard about it. Once AI brings it up, then you can go look into it and find out more things. So I think that it's changed a lot, and it's better medicine now, and we have more treatments, more ways to help people. So I would encourage people to go into it. But it still is, a life commitment. It's not something to say, well, I'll do this for 10 years. I'm going to do something else, because it's just too much of a commitment to get the education and training and then not continue on.
Right. My oldest is still considering it.
Great.
Yeah. She thought she wanted to be a doctor when she was in school, elementary, high school, maybe high school, more high school. And then, she shadowed a few. None of the doctors that she shadowed encouraged her, like, don't do it. And so she got a degree in biology still, because I guess she had an affinity to the sciences. And then I'm not sure what drove her to. She just graduated from a master's from Northeastern, and with, I guess, all the stuff happening, she didn't go to I don't think she went to the graduation for her bachelor's, because I think it was during COVID. And so I shouldn't say we all, my wife and I and her husband, flew to Boston, and we actually went to the graduation for her master's. It was really exciting to see my baby graduate. And so, my mom and dad have masters. My sister's got a doctoral degree. And then there's Kurt and Elena, my wife. We just have bachelors. We never went that next level. And it was really nice seeing my daughter kind of carrying the torch. But she's 29, master's in bioinformatics, doing all the statistical analysis of research. So she works for a research company, pharmaceutical, right now doing research. And so they, I guess, had maybe encouraged her possibly to pursue that, but she's still thinking about it. She's not too old, is she, at 29?
Oh, no. she's
I
fine.
mean, knowing that she's got her bachelor's, she's got a master's.
Right. She'd have 4 years of schooling in med school, and then depending on what she wants to go into, a residency, probably 3 to 5 years. So she's probably talking anywhere from 7 to 8 years additional. So if she wants to do it, she need to do it soon. But I mean, even if you're start going at age 40 and you're ready to go, you got a long time ahead of you.
Got a long career in
Right,
front of
right,
you.
right.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about a woman doing this at age 29 and maybe wants to have a family?
50 it's at least 50% of the med student graduates are women now, at least 50%.
Oh, really?
Maybe more. It hasn't been a problem. We had a number of women colleagues or partners, and a couple of them did have pregnancies while we were there with them, and it works out fine during the pregnancy. Then of course afterward you do have to be a little more because you have office hours, you got stuff planned. So if your child's sick, you have to have ways to take care of the child while you're sick, whether it's somebody you trust that you can bring the child to, or
the grandmother.
Or the grand.
Yeah.
Right.
My wife was like, because they're in San Francisco right now.
Okay.
And we're talking about coming here. She's like, and I go, well, I was kind of thinking about that. I go, if Michaela gets pregnant, I guess we're moving to San Francisco. She's like, duh. Like, that's not really a question.
That's not, yeah, it's definitely. And it's interesting. You said some of the doctors didn't encourage her, and it's probably during the COVID or right after COVID, and it's also during the time medicine has changed so much. Again, when I went into practice, and probably when you were seeing me, it was pretty simple. We didn't have computers. You came in, you saw the front desk, and they gave you what they call a super bill, and you just kind of fill it out. And everything pretty much then was, here's the bill, here's what you pay. And then if you have insurance, sure, go ahead and turn it in. But people didn't always have insurance, and they just paid. I think when we first went in practice was $20 a visit or $25. Now it's probably $200 a visit by the time you add all these different charges and stuff.
Well, I always thought about that, and maybe it's the business mindset that I have, and I look at the bill and I see how much it is, but then I kind of think about it, I was like, well, how many nurses is he having to pay? He's got rent here, he's got equipment, then he's got to have a billing person, and
exactly.
It gets crazy, I guess. Your administrative costs.
Yeah, we didn't have all that, and then of course we didn't have all the insurance you had to deal with. Now you have insurance, which is a layer in between you and the patient. So it's like, let's do this. Oh, insurance says you can't do that. Let's go here. Oh, you can't go to that facility. You can't go to that X-ray because insurance doesn't want you to go there because they don't have a contract with that particular organization. All right, let's go do this medicine. People see on television all these new medicines, which of course, unfortunately, since they're being advertised, are extremely expensive, and they say, "Hey, let's get this pill I saw on TV." Well, insurance won't cover it because it costs too much. So it's very frustrating for the doctors to deal with this now. Like I said, I didn't have that much dealing with that, but you just have to say that's the way it is. You just deal with it.
Or you can go the route of Dr. Howell. She just said, you know what?
I don't deal with it.
I'm not dealing with that anymore.
Right.
If you want to come, it's a cash pay. But in 2025, I mean, I'll just share, I can't remember, what is it for, I'll probably get this wrong, so don't hold me to the prices here, guys. But I want to say for a half-hour visit, I think it's like $350. For a 1 hour visit, I think it's $500 or $600. And you got to plop down the credit card or write a check, and you got to pay that. But you're getting a half an hour or an hour of her undivided attention.
Right.
And I think maybe I'm wrong. As a patient, I'll have to say, I take those appointments super serious when I'm having to pay $500.
You're right. You're not going to.
I come in, I got my notes. We're checking out. Okay, I covered that. Okay, what else is there?
You're not going to go just with.
How's it going, Doc? How's the weather?
I got an allergy today. I'm sneezing, and you're not going to go in for that. You're going to try the over-the-counter stuff, and
right. So I think there's some, maybe, I don't know. Do you see other doctors deciding to go to the cash pay route?
There's a number of doctors. One of my partners a number of years ago went to that, where it was, they call the concierge model, where you pay so much back then, I think it was a couple thousand a year. So if you wanted to go to see this doctor, you'd pay every year $2,000, and then that would cover your medical expenses for the year to see him. You can see him as much as you want, and he'd be available. Now, he would still turn things into insurance. Like if he was going to draw blood or do something in his office, that could be turned into insurance and so forth. But you weren't billed anything extra for that. Now, you still had to have insurance, though, for things like x-rays, hospitalization, and so forth, because those charges were all sitting out from the doctor. So it's because you paid the doctor that upfront fee for the year.
That's just for him.
Yeah, that's for him. Right.
That's just for him.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my wife, she's a clinical laboratory scientist. She's worked for a cancer center, but it was still tied, I think, to St. Luke's. And she currently works for Boca Regional down in Florida. And prior to that, she worked for Tenet Hospital. And I mean, maybe we've just been fortunate. It just seems the insurance coverage that we have through her job has always been stellar. I talked to other people out there that have had a surgery or this or that. I mean, I did learn though, because I had to get a septoplasty. I had really bad allergies, and I had blockages, severe blockages in my sinuses that I got it all cleared out.
So they had to open it up.
And so we went to the doctor. Like, I guess maybe he had a surgery center or something. I'm like, oh, no, we need to have it done at my wife's hospital. Because then I guess that's part of the coverage. If there was a charge, it was minimal because we're using her hospital. Right. And she's an employee. So that's like an employee benefit.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. So if you go somewhere else, like you say, you have to pay an extra fee. And it's like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not do that. Like I had unfortunately hit that age where I had to get the colonoscopy. And I think she does those in office. I was like, no. Let's do it at the hospital. I go, you got right to the hospital. Yes, let's do it at the hospital. Right. So, yeah. So, I mean, that's been one major benefit of her career is being in the medical field. Right. And then, so you were which hospital system were you with?
SSM, which was St. Mary's.
Sisters of St. Mary's?
Sisters of St.
Is that a nonprofit?
It is a nonprofit. Correct.
Okay.
Everything in St. Louis is there is a couple that are nonprofit, but BJC, which is Barnes Jewish Christian, was a nonprofit. SSM, and then Mercy Health is a nonprofit. And there's some standalone, St. Luke's and a couple others. There used to be a Tenet, but there isn't anymore. And I don't think there's any for-profit hospitals in St. Louis at all now. In some areas, and a couple of my good friends moved down to Florida, and they're in big health systems that are for-profit, and they seem to do well. I mean, they all make money, and non-for-profit just put the money back in and build more buildings. They got huge buildings because they can't send the profit to anybody because that would be against the nonprofit rules. So they have to reinvest it into building or doing something else,
or providing better employee benefits.
Hopefully that happens.
I would have to say for my wife, that's been the case. Good. So we're happy about that. So this is a question I actually want to ask my mother, and I'm going to ask you too, because you're hitting close to what she did. So what does it take to stay in one field for, you basically had your practice and field and you're at the hospital. I mean, you had, I guess, that office over in DePaul Medical Center for 45 years. I mean, some people see that and go, oh my God, how is that possible that you could just get up every day, go to the same office, the same building, 45 years. That's an incredible time to be in a single career.
It is a long time. Of course, it goes quick. And I think in medicine, that in family practice, which is what I did, so you saw everybody. It was so much of variety, and it was so interesting. And the relationships, like I said, I remembered you. I didn't remember every detail about you, but I mean, it's been years.
Well, yeah, you got hundreds of patients.
Right. Yeah. But it was so nice having these relationships with the patients. And that's what I miss now that I'm retired. I miss the relationships with the patients. I don't miss filling out insurance forms, doing computer forms, filling out the computer, typing into it. That's one of the reasons I'm not still working. But the patients were the reason you stayed there. And I think that you enjoyed every day you went in, you saw somebody new. And once you got to know all your patients, it was like, yeah, they're like friends. They're not like just
Right.
they're not just somebody
Like extended family.
right. Exactly.
Almost.
Exactly.
How did you approach leadership? Like, did you see yourself as a leader when you first started out?
No, I don't think so. And you went out, you just went in and you did your thing. But then, as you got involved in the hospital and management, and things kind of changed again over time, where it went from a standalone hospital to a hospital system, and then to have a voice in it, you almost had to get involved and you had to do something. Now, not everybody wanted to do that. They didn't want to spend time in the thing I disliked about it were all the meetings. And I don't know if, some people I think enjoy going to meetings, but to me, meetings, we spent a lot of time and never really got much done other than talking about the problem. And then, unless somebody went out and did something about it, it really didn't help. So, but leadership was something that kind of grew on, and you had a, it's something that you had to take a position and start leading and doing it if you wanted to, keep things the way they should be for you in practice.
And did you have any like mentors or books that you leaned on when you got, you went into this leadership role?
Again, there were a lot of good physicians that were doing this ahead of me that I spent time with and talked with. A couple I can think of off the bat. And like I said, I did try to, they were soft spoken, but kind of got their points across just with soft speaking. They didn't try to boss people or holler at people, or that wasn't the way that I learned to be a leader. It was
right, and this is back in the 80s.
80s, correct.
And that's kind of, back then I would say that's almost cutting edge leadership style.
Right, you're probably right.
It's probably not common.
Right.
I know my father was, kind of that way. He didn't get all riled up or anything.
Right.
He was a high school administrator. I don't know. I'm sure you've met him at one point.
I'm sure I did. Right.
But yeah, he was, you might say soft spoken and friendly demeanor. Right. And even if he's dealing with a problem student, we're focused on the problem. We don't need to add more emotion to the situation.
Exactly.
I think he was very skilled at de-escalation. When the parents came in, they're like ready to go in and start raising hell because you're not treating my kid right or fairly or whatever. And I think he was actually quite good at de-escalation of those emotions.
And that's the kind of leadership, like you said, that's what I would that's what I wanted to model after and try.
And the guys that you were following had that same style of leadership.
There were some that didn't. Some that were, it's like, this is it. This is where it's going to be. And, and those, you always try to avoid, or you tried to avoid confrontation because you never win. And they were going to win no matter what.
Well, right. Interesting you say that. Yeah. I just had a situation where I was in a meeting and the other party was interested in winning, where I kind of, reflected on this conversation. I was interested in understanding. I was trying to get them to understand me. Right. They were trying to win the point. Right. And I would say that's probably was more your style. Right. You're not trying to win anything. Right. We're trying to move things forward, to pick the best path. It's not about winning. Right. And I think at least it's not in your mind. Right. Obviously, you got to make decisions, but everything's not like a point on a game board.
That's right.
Like, I won that one. I won this one. I won this one.
It's like the difference between a dialogue where you're going to dialogue and talk and kind of see each other's point of view and understand where the others are coming from, and a debate, where a debate is you go in and debate. Your idea is to win. You got to win. And no matter what you do in a debate, you have to win. So then you get points. And of course, they had debate clubs in school and stuff. And, and if you win, then you keep moving on. But so it's a completely different thing. So the dialogue is what I think you need to have, is a dialogue, not a win. And that's the same in all life, I think, no matter what. I mean, if we can dialogue with our family, with our wife, with our children, it's much better than trying to debate them and say, I'm gonna be right.
I'm gonna win the argument.
Right.
How did you manage the emotional weight of caring for all of these families over the years? I mean, imagine, I know my wife, when she worked at the cancer center, it was actually quite tough on her. And she's just working in the lab.
Right.
I mean, she's not even, she She's got some patient contact because it would sit in the blood draw station was right there next to the lab inside of the cancer center. But then, next thing you know, that person's not showing up anymore, and they're not well, and they're gone. And then it took her. She must have read the obits for the first year of that job, and then finally she's like, I can't take it anymore.
It is one of the things that you have to, in a way, you want to be involved. You want to know the family. You want to, support them, and you want to have a lot of, emotion with them to an extent. But in a way, when things don't go the way you want or where they want or things happen, you have to be able to, step back and say, I did all I could. And you always have to feel you do it. I mean, you have to do all you can. And sometimes things happen. And car accident, I can remember the number of patients I had that I just loved being with and talking to them and coming in. And they were in a car accident and they died in a car accident. I had nothing to do with what I was treating them for, but it's somebody that's gone from your life and somebody that you like to know. And I guess it's like anything in families and in friends and people, when things happen to them, you miss them and you think about them, but you have to be able to say, I got to move on. And, but
I got other patients that need me. Right. I guess would that be it?
Exactly. And
I got to keep myself mentally fit so I can care for my other patients that are depending on me.
Right. And you can't take yourself down every time something bad happens to somebody. And because if you do, like you say, you won't be good for anybody else or your own family.
So how was there a way that you managed that in a way, or?
Yeah, I think some of it is discussing with your colleagues and just going over with them and talking with them about things that happened, and you try to get it through that. I think your faith and your religious beliefs help. You can if depending on what you believe, you can pray and you can ask your God for help and get through this. And I think all those things help. They make a big difference.
Just curious, was there ever a time you thought about leaving the medical field?
No, not really. I never really did have that.
45 years, you're committed.
It was actually hard when I finally did leave to make the final decision. And again, it's because I enjoyed the patients. But I think the burdens of all the other things, the insurance companies, the governmental interference, all these things, were like, well, they outweighed the good parts of it. So let's retire now.
Okay. What kind of legacy do you hope that you left with both your patients and your peers that you've shared so many decades with?
Well, I never really thought a lot about that, but I would hope that the patients, and, I see them every once in a while. Will be a store, somebody will run to me, oh, Dr. Lischwe, I've been thinking about you, and I just, I hope that patients realize that I did do my best and we tried to help them. And again, you don't always get the right answer for everybody, but you do your best. And I hope that they can remember and say, yeah, he cared for me. And that's it, that he cared for me, that he was on my side. And, the worst thing is that sometimes you'll hear patients talk about, I went to this doctor and all he cared about was how much he could do and how much he could charge me. And, and I hope that nobody ever felt that. I was just there to make money off of, because that's not what I was there for.
Right. Yeah. I see a chiropractor, and it was really frustrating for me. One day I'm in there seeing him, and there was a patient that had that attitude towards this guy, and it really hurt me because he's not that way. 100%. Like he would tell me, he's like, dude, if you're like down and out, you don't have any money, but you need chiropractic care, he's like, don't let money stop you from getting treatment. He's like, and then I went and saw him, told him I can't pay. And he's like, well, go ahead and get a massage too. You paid for it. That was the kind of, and this patient was in there saying, you're just wanting to, I'm like, you're like barking up the wrong tree, picking the wrong guy. Right. That's just not who he is. Right. He was 100% about caring for his patients. Right. It wasn't just me either. Anybody.
Right.
It's like,
and it's easy to do. And that was the other thing, for the first 15 years of practice, it was just myself and my partners, and we could do what we wanted. If we didn't want to charge somebody, we could get by. Once we were part of the system, you didn't always have that freedom because the system wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
They said, you just can't write somebody's bill off because if you do one, then if they come and audit us, I say, how come you wrote this off? Well, then you got to write that one. And
Yeah.
so so as a system, it was much more difficult to be individualistic with the patient. Or they say, oh, come on in, I won't charge you anything. That didn't work out in the system. When I was myself, it did work out like that. It's like, I know this patient doesn't have any money or they have a hard time and they just need somebody to be with them for a little bit. You can have them come in and talk. So that's the legacy that I would rather have, is that I was there for the patient.
You just seem this very calm demeanor. Like, is it just come natural to you to, like, under pressure to just remain calm, or is there strategies that you have, or just part of kind of who you are?
No, I think about that at times, and I do notice that at times that I don't get quite as nervous or upset or worried about things as some other people do. And it's like, I guess I feel that I'm prepared to handle it, and I'm either going to handle it, or if I can't, then I got to get help, and I'm not going to, get so emotional about it that I can't do what I'm supposed to be doing.
Is it conscious? You're like, getting emotional, that's not going to help me get to the answer.
Exactly. No, I think that I think it's.
Or have you always been this way from a kid?
I don't know about as a kid, but I guess I just grew into over time. It's like, it doesn't do any good to get emotional about the problem that's going on or what's happening. And you just got to have a clear mind and get through it. And, if you need to get emotional about something, you could after it's all over, then you can say,
then you lose control.
Yeah, right. Then you can say, yeah.
I just remember, I don't know if you knew this, I worked as a phlebotomist down at SLU while I was going to school there.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the patients that would always, you being a medical doctor, I think you'll understand my level of comedy when this happened. I want the doctor to draw my blood. And I would just laugh. And I'm like, and I would tell them too, and they probably didn't like it. I go, the last time the doctor drew blood was probably medical school. And I go, I do this every day. I'm pretty good at it.
Right.
I go, but if you want me to get the doctor, I'll go get him. And so I tell you what, about half of them would let me draw, but the other half would be insistent. And I'm like, I didn't get upset. I was like, because I'm in my mind, I was I'm a young kid. I'm just kind of, I go, this guy's I know what they're going to do. They're going to put the needle in the skin. And if they don't hit the vein, they're going to dig around. They're not going to do a multiple stick. I go, they're going to stick them one time, but I've seen it. I'm in there because he's like, what tubes do you need? And I'm watching them do it. And I'm just like shaking my head. And I'm like, okay, you did that to yourself. But I was right when I told him, right? Probably the last time the doctor drew blood was probably either the last patient that complained and prior to that, medical school.
Pretty rare. I mean, that once you're in practice, I mean, you have other things you're doing and, to spend the time getting blood, it just wasn't worth the time to do that. And particularly if you had somebody who was good at it, that knew what they were doing, it's like, why am I doing this?
Right. So that was always kind of a fun. I'll never forget the one. She was a hard stick. This patient was a hard stick. And they're like, we've got to get this blood. The doctors just had to get the blood. It was for a culture, a blood culture. And those are really large tubes. And I went in there and I had trouble they went to like 4 and they ended up doing a femoral stick. And I was like, ooh, yeah. I mean, they're holding her down. And I was like, oh my goodness. This is
going right into the main, a very tender part of the body.
Right, exactly. To get the blood, they got it. Was there a habit, a routine, a ritual that helped you, reset? Because you talked about these days. I mean, they're long days. Right. You're up early in the morning. You're probably leaving your house, 5:30, 6 a.m. to make, because I think your first appointment was 7 or 7:30.
Yeah, we kind of changed things around. For a long time, we always made rounds first. So we'd go to the hospital, see the patients, and then go over and see patients at maybe 9 o'clock. But you had to get to the hospital early to be able to.
Okay.
Right.
Your days were early. I mean, you're leaving home early.
Right.
You got your rounds, then you're doing your appointments, then you got your office work you had to do. Then you're probably going back and doing rounds again. I mean,
the first part of the morning was always the morning time kind of reset where I would go in and I would, maybe for the first half hour, I'd get there early enough. I had time to look at correspondence or look at lab reports that came in, and I was able to clear my head and think about the patients and, not while everything was going on, while patients were in rooms, while, the office staff was there asking me questions, because usually first thing in the morning, there wasn't anybody else there, maybe one of the other doctors. So that was the time where you kind of got to clear your head. And then, of course, afterward you were pretty fatigued, but you were still, after the office shut down, after everybody left, you had time then to kind of reevaluate and kind of look over things and kind of reflect on the day. So those were the times that were important. The rest of the day was pretty much hectic, going on and on. So,
I mean, how did your family adapt to this lifestyle? I mean, it's probably all they knew, maybe.
Right.
Were you married before you became a doctor?
Well, I got married after I graduated from med school, but I was married before I started practice. And then we didn't have children for about 6-7 years. But, they had adapted to it in that I wasn't there a lot for things. And it's funny now, even now, we'll be talking about things and we're talking about people that we visit, my wife and I goes, I never really knew that person. I said, you went out because, was you involved, was like, she was in a carpool or this or that. So she got to go out with these people and got to know them. So by the time I retired, I didn't know most of these people. I heard the names, I knew the names, but I didn't really know who they were. So the relationships we had were kind of built by my wife and, of course, the kids to an extent. I did spend time coaching. I did coach my son, and I coached my daughter somewhat, mainly my son, in baseball and basketball. And that was fun. It was a good time we had, and I made sure we had time for that after work. But they are kind of adapted. We usually didn't eat dinner until 7:30 at the earliest, and they always waited till I got home. We had dinner.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah. That's just kind of the way they all learned.
So that was your family time, was dinner when you got home from work.
So it worked out.
It's a fairly demanding career.
Right. And like I said, it is. I mean,
did you at least have most of your weekends available for family time, or
when we were again? It was just the two of us. It was every other weekend you had off. The other weekend you're on. We had more patients and we had more doctors in the system. Then we were able to have maybe once a month, we'd have a weekend that we had to be on call and go to the hospital and do things. And the rest of the weekends were off. So it did work out. And usually I took a half day off. Mine was usually Thursday. So I'd work in the morning, just maybe not see patients, but catch up on things, go to the hospital, and then have all afternoon off. And particularly if you were going to be working on the weekend, if you had to come in Saturday or you had to go to the hospital. And again, that's changed a lot now because the younger people that are coming out now want to work more 9 to 5 type of a situation, and they don't want to be on call every night, taking calls. And so things have changed a little in that regard. So it's not the same right now as it was back then.
Is there a shortage of doctors?
There is. There still is. There aren't enough to do everything we want to do. I mean, there are more ancillary people, the nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, and they're good, but they don't have all the training, so they can't do everything that the physicians can do.
How did your patients react to having to see a physician assistant or nurse practitioner?
Once they got used to it, they didn't mind because they knew I was usually there, or they would be able to talk to, because the ones that they saw would be in my office and they could talk to me, and then I would be able to see what they did, and if there was something else that I didn't think should have been done, or something else that should have been added on, we can always get back to them. So they, I think they accepted that.
I mean, I embraced it early on when that kind of became the trend, because I knew how busy the doctor was, and this is how he's able to serve more people and effectively.
Correct.
And well, most of the doctor, I guess it's part of the process. Maybe is I think it's like every second or third or fourth visit, I would have to when I have those appointments, it's going to be with the doctor, but all the in between visits are with the nurse practitioner or the PA.
Because even the doctor I go to my own self, I usually once a year, and then if you have some problems in between, usually you see someone else, unless it's something that you say, I really need to see the doctor. I can't, but it works out though. Once a year you see the doctor, then usually I don't have to go between. But if you do, you'll come, whoever can get you in the physician's assistant or nurse practitioner, you see one of them.
Doesn't sound like you really face much resistance.
No,
to your mindset. I think a lot of folks out there, do you read much now that you have some time?
I do.
Have you ever read Stephen Pressfield? I don't know. It might not have been in your circle of
that one. I don't
influence. he's more about the artist, the writer, and he talks about resistance and how, the writer that just gets up every day and writes no matter, I don't really feel good today. I'm not going to write today. No, you go ahead and you write. Like in your career of medicine, I'm sure there were days that you woke up that were like, I don't, I wish I could just stay home.
In medicine, that's true because you always had a schedule of patients and they were scheduled in advance. So if you didn't show up or you canceled, all these people who were counting on you, now all of a sudden you either have to be put in the next day or try to squeeze them in. And
so that's an interesting perspective. Yeah. Maybe that's it. So like for the artist or the writer, if they could maybe switch that to consider, hey, I have an audience. They're expecting this work from me.
Right.
I need to do it, but it's not immediate. Where you as a doctor, when you woke up in the morning, you knew you already had a whole full schedule. You have all these patients, you have these rounds you have to do. You've got dozens, I'm guessing, people depending on you to show up to work.
Right.
Like what would happen when you get sick? Did you ever get sick? I mean, you're a doctor in a family practice around people that are sick.
There was only a few times where I had to cancel patients because of illness. At times I probably should have stayed home where I had a congestion or coughing, but if you were coughing, you kind of stepped out of the room and coughed and then kind of went back in. But ordinarily, if it would have been some other job, I shouldn't have shown up and I wouldn't have, but doing what I was doing, it's like, well, you really, you got to keep doing this. And so I didn't miss too many days. For me, when I think about it, and I do some volunteer things now. We work at the food bank and some different things. We do a lot of packing when we go to the food bank. And I thought, if I had to do this every day for 45 years, I don't think I could have survived. But some people do that. I mean, that's their job. They work on an assembly line, they do things, and they get in every day and they do it. But to me, that would have been much harder than what I did, where every day was kind of a new slate.
Right. You said that earlier. You said the variety is what you had a massive amount of variety, even though you did the same thing, worked out of the same office, had the same partners, had the same, well, I guess your patients changed over time, but there was a core set of them that were the same, for decades.
Correct.
And so, I mean, because I was a patient probably from 1986 until 2005. I mean, 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a long time. And so, you get to know these people, this core group that stick with you. And so, but then you still have the variety, like what's Kirk doing now? Having these people depend on you probably is another, because that's something I'm super interested in right now is discipline, routine versus motivation and inspiration, the ability just to get up every day and keep doing it. I think that's just a very interesting perspective that you're able to share having your experience, because I've never thought of it that way. Like my father, he had to get to work. Like, I don't know. He was like you, he was out the house probably by 6 o'clock or earlier. And then he had to open up the school, work the school, he'd come home. He grew a very fast beard. He'd come home, shave, clean up. That's the only reason why he came home. Was to shower and shave.
Wow.
Then he's back, think about a school. Now they have the afternoon and the evening activities. They have the sports games. They have the theater. They have whatever it is. So he had to go back.
Be there.
As administrator, he had to be there. And then he had to close up the school, which could be 8, 9 o'clock at night, and weekends when there are games and stuff. The weekend thing, well, they would have night games too, I believe, there. And so, yeah, he was constantly going. But then he had a lot of people depending on it. Wasn't him getting up and writing a chapter in his book that he's going to put out. He's got an entire school of teachers, an entire school of children going to school. Is a very similar
so
situation.
Every day was something different. Every day was different. So I mean, in a way, it was the same, but it was always different.
It was always different.
So he was interesting, and he could keep doing it.
But he had that level of discipline that you had. I mean, I don't think I don't know if he did call in sick, it was rare, very rare. And I just find it interesting. I mean, this is like a light bulb just went off for me of, folks that get up every day and just keep doing it no matter what. And then like, I don't feel like it. Well, am I wrong? Were there days that you didn't feel like it?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, there are. I mean, And like you said, some of the days are things that, maybe some other things happen in your life or things that go on. It's like, oh, I really would rather be at home, or I'd rather be doing this, or I missed a lot of, you have to say it, but a lot of dates that I could have gone to things if I didn't have to be at the office. And so you hate missing some of this stuff, but you did, and, different things with the kids and so forth. But I did make the sports stuff, but during the day, I rarely ever made any of the kids stuff at school, like for parents and conferences. And funny, we had a dog for a while, and my wife always did the veterinary, and she always told me about the vet. And I go, "Oh, that's a vet I never ever saw or met." But she knew the vet because she took the dog all the time. So there's a lot of things I never even got involved in, even though I knew they were going on. But
is that like, how do you feel about that, missing those things?
At this stage, we're close with the kids and, close with the grandkids. And I don't see it didn't do any harm. I mean, you always look back and say, I wish I could have made this or that. But, you were
Let me share something from me. And I made an effort to be there with the kids. But if I'm honest with myself, I feel like I really wasn't as present. I always had something else going in my mind, thinking about this, thinking about that. I'm just curious for you. When you had that time with your children, as busy, because you had a much busier schedule than I ever thought about, did you make an effort to be present, like truly present? Or were you think, oh, I got this patient tomorrow and I got to go do this hospital visit?
I think I hopefully was truly present. I focused on what was going on there at the event, not what was
coming maybe that evening or the next morning or something.
Exactly.
And is there, like, what can you say about that? I'm curious. I just recently read a book from Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. And the idea is that there's just now. There's no future. There's no past. The past is the past. There's no point of regrets because what's happened has happened. We can't change it. And there's no point of focusing on the future because it's not real. And so it sounds like you kind of lived your life a little bit that way based on what you just said.
Yeah, I think you kind of had to. You had to deal with what's in front
of you.
Right. And the past, of course, you can't change it. You can't think about it. But on the other hand, it molded you to this point. So the past is what, when you make your decision now, it's based on things that happened in the past, although you're not saying, oh, I got to go around and rechange. I wish I would have done this, but you base it on the past. And then the future, like I say, you don't know if it's coming, but again, you have to prepare and say, even though it's now, if I do this or this, what could happen in the future that may be affected. And so I think you still have to have the past and the future in the back of your mind. It's not where you're at, but like I say, what you do now is going to affect what's happening tomorrow, if there is a tomorrow.
Right.
So I mean, to me, that you have to be aware of that, but you can't live for the future. You can't say, what I'm doing now is, so this is perfect next week. I mean, because you don't, like you said, you don't know if we're going to have it next week, and there is no future. Right now,
the Earth could be hit by some major asteroid, and we're like dust in space.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
We just don't know.
And that gets on to the spiritual part of life too. And I think our spiritual part of life is important also that we have to deal with.
Right. So you would say that was a big part of your life as well, that kind of helped you get through.
Right.
Is your faith.
Faith, right.
How long has it been that you're actually retired? Was this recent? How recent was this?
No, it's been 8 years now.
How many?
8 years.
8 years.
So 45, actually you have to take off 8. So I was like 37, I guess, in practice, 37, 38 in practice. But so the last 8 years I've been retired. Now I did do some clinic work for a while, but it wasn't the same as practice.
I don't know the statistics, so unfortunately I can't quote the study or anything, but I was talking with somebody that mentioned the statistic. People that retire that don't have anything to do versus people that retire that have something to do, they could actually die within 5 years or something. I can't. I wish I could find that. I can't.
Right.
The person gave me, but something to that effect. Like they retire from their job, they got no plan, no nothing. They just sit in a rocking chair, and that's it. They don't have anything to do. And I remember my father just kind of beating this in my head. She's like, don't ever retire. Because it doesn't mean you can quit what you're doing. Just you need to have something to do.
Right.
He worked a job. He ended up working a job at Sam's in the computer department, and loved it. Right. And here is a high school administrator. Right. And well, that I guess that's another part of his leadership. There was no job that was beneath him.
Right.
When he worked that job for 30 plus years.
Right.
I mean, if there was gum on the floor, he's going to get down and scrape it up. If he sees a piece of trash, he's going to pick it up and throw it in the can. I mean, there's so when he asked somebody to do something, they knew
he would do it too.
Yeah. I mean, he's asking because he's got to go. He's got a parent meeting right now. He can't do it. And not that he won't do it. He would do it, but he's got to go meet with his parent. Just like you would go draw blood of a patient if you needed to, but you've got another patient waiting on you, and you got a phlebotomist working in your office. So that's the reason why you got the phlebotomist, so you can go see more patients and have more impact.
Exactly.
But 8 years of retirement, what's been like your success points for that?
We prepared. My wife and I both took this class. It's called The Next Chapter at St. Louis U, and it was a 6-month course, but it was only one day a week you met. But it was very nice, and it was more Ignatian or Jesuit type of a program where what's your life going to be like? What's my next chapter? Because like you say, you still got to do something. It's not like you're going to retire and just die. I mean, you got other things you have to do.
Well, you might if you got nothing to do.
Right. So that's
the mind will just shut down, right?
That's right. Yeah. So that's what we kind of did. You went through inventories, kind of did things, and tried to figure out what am I going to do and how am I going to do things, and volunteer if you're going to volunteer. Are you going to do some part-time work? And that's why for a while I worked at the clinic. I didn't just completely give it up, but I think
so you gradually stepped away,
right. And I think that prepared me this class and this course. And my wife wanted to do it too because she said, "I want to see what you're learning because I don't want you to all of a sudden say, I'm going to go on a mission trip and I'm going to be in Costa Rica for 6 months and then I'm at home by myself here." So, the Jesuits didn't say that. They didn't say you leave and go down and come down to our hospital in Costa Rica or whatever. So, yeah.
Okay. So your wife enjoyed it as well.
She did.
Yeah. So what came out of that? What did you figure out?
Well, I think we both figured out where we wanted to be. We figured out that we need to spend time away from each other every day for a while. They said that. They said, you can't, after you've worked and you've not been together for, the whole every day. So you can't just all of a sudden go home and be at home and be together because you got to have time away. So you got to just kind of plan time away from each other because all your life you weren't. I mean, when you really think about it, I was
right. You got to be real.
Yeah. And if
do you think that was a positive impact on your marriage of not too much togetherness? Having some space.
Yeah. And in a way, it might have been better if we had more time together. Maybe the time we have now, we would know more what to do. But sometimes we'll sit there just kind of watching television, not talking. But that's probably the same with, I guess, a lot of couples, no matter what. But yeah, I think that you're right. Too much togetherness isn't good either. So.
And don't want to be away. Like I'm hitting on 2 weeks away. And I'm dying to get home. And then she actually just went to see her friends in Honduras for a week. So she was gone a week. Mm-hmm. And then I got and that's when I was actually back home. But then she left. So I was home for 2 weeks, but she was gone a week of those 2 weeks. Right. And so now I'm back up here again, but we're still, I don't know. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do. We don't know, but.
Because you're getting close to that time of retirement, I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm in retirement right now, if you want to call it that. I mean, I'm doing what I want,
right,
and focused on doing what I want, and then I figure everything else is just going to kind of fall into place. So we'll see what happens.
Right.
Yeah, I enjoy doing this. Right. This really lights me up.
Well, that's great.
Getting to meet people and learning their wisdom and finding out, what they've figured out and being able to share because people want to hear your story. Right. Whether you believe it or not, I think there's people like to hear your story.
See, my son was looking for a job and somebody said, "Oh, you ought to get on LinkedIn too. Maybe you could find something to help your son with his job." And that was, 10, 15 years ago. And I didn't do it as a social thing, but I looked at it, and then, like I said, we kind of got together this by seeing each other on LinkedIn, even though it's been years since we've seen each other.
Right. That's what connected us was a DM.
Right,
I think I sent you.
right.
Hey, what's going on?
Right. And that's the only social media that I actually use. My wife has, I think, Facebook and Instagram. She looks at it. She'll tell me if something's interesting, but I've never really been involved in doing those. And I think I'd probably spend too much time on it if I did. So I'm glad I don't.
So what do you spend time now that you're in, like, you're not at the clinic?
Yeah, I get to read. I do a lot of, I read a lot about the daily news and so forth. And like I said, I do some volunteer work. Usually every day, like this morning, we got up, I went to church. Every day we usually go, she's my wife and I, we go to church every day and have our spiritual time.
I'm guessing if you're going to church every day that you're Catholic?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Right.
So you're doing a daily mass.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's true because there are probably not too many other churches that have daily masses other than the Catholic Church.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not far from here. So I went to that this morning first and went home and then came back here. So it's
cool.
Yeah.
Now you get to do that.
Yeah.
I guess, or did you do that at DePaul? Because I think they did have a chapel there.
Occasionally, I would go to the chapel occasionally and pray if there were things I needed to, to get off from my mind. But I didn't get to go to daily mass until I retired. So, and then we do a lot of work at the church. I mean, we volunteer a lot there, and like I said, the food bank, and there's a lot of different things we do. But most of it now is volunteer work. And once I finish the clinic work, I really haven't done any medicine, and I really don't miss that. And I miss, again, that's
the patients.
Patients,
right? I don't miss people, right? Cool. And he's got his St. Louis Cardinals shirt on.
Right.
I got,
even though, you do too. Yeah.
Well, it's still 6:30 from yesterday. I met with David Weglars, the founder of Still 630 down there, just south of the Arch. So if you get a chance, I don't know if you're into bourbon or gin. Do you ever drink gin or bourbon?
Occasionally. I don't drink a lot, but I mean,
I don't drink much either, but let me tell you,
it's good. Huh?
The gin
Still 630.
he's got like 5 or 6 different gins. And on Friday afternoons, you can go there and do a taste it. I think it's like $6 a pour, something very inexpensive. And they'll sit there and tell you about everything. And then the experimentals you can taste for free. And all they ask you to do is give your opinion on it.
So where is this now? Where is it?
Right downtown, just south of the Arch. So there used to be, he calls it a Hardee's. Hardee's. So we're in the old Hardee's building.
Like on Broadway or something?
On Broadway. If you remember if you get down there much. Yeah. So it's called, Still 630. Great guy. It was an amazing podcast. I see that shirt and it's just funny I'll share the story with you real quick and then we can wrap because I'm actually a couple minutes over what I rented the room for. My son went to film out with me. I don't know if you know about scouting.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to film out with him. To be honest, it wasn't the best trip. The other adult leader quit along with her son, who was the youth leader, 2 days in. And it was very frustrating. So I told my son, I went, while we're on the truck, I found out that there's a thing called, you're familiar with OA?
Right.
Okay. So he's an OA. And I found that there was an OA truck and they had availability. So I said, you're going to go back up there and do this again. So he got signed up. They actually he's applied for a scholarship. They paid for the trip. So he didn't have to, we found out later we could have told him we needed money for the trip. But I guess it was okay. We had the money and we were able to manage to get him there. And so we paid to get him there. And we thought, why don't you take the train out? That would be fun. So we flew him up to St. Louis so he could see family here. And I'm dropping him off in Miami. And I think he's like 16, 17 years old. And, I'm still concerned dad. And I'm like, are you on the right plane? He goes, well, I think so. And he sends me a picture and there's like 20 people with Cardinal shirts on.
So I think you're on the right one.
He goes, I think I'm on the right plane, Dad. It's like one of the rarest towns in the country, I think. Like you're on a plane from Miami to St. Louis and then there's going to be all these people with Cardinal shirts on. Yeah. It doesn't matter what town if you're flying a direct flight from X to St. Louis,
it's going to have Cardinal
shirts on. It's just crazy like that.
I think the Cardinals are playing to Miami right now. They're playing the Marlins.
Right. Well, and if you go to that game, there'll be more Cardinals fans than Marlins. Like almost guaranteed.
Wow.
Almost guaranteed.
Wow.
It's just nuts.
Wow.
And it just the fan base here in St. Louis is just amazing. And I always tell people we're the most winning team, and then every now and then there'll be a baseball person that will know that. Well, no, the Yankees, and I go, well, yeah, but they cheated, so we're still the most winning team.
That's funny.
At least that's my story. I'm sticking with it.
You got to stick with it. Good.
Anyway, Dr. Lischwe, thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
taking time out of your day and meeting with me and sharing about your long career in medicine. And I think there's some nice wisdom that we'll be able to pick from that.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.